Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Monday, November 4th, 2024. Crazy week this week. Yeah, man, here we go. I don't talk about that stuff on the show, but yeah, you can feel the tension. It's out there, and that's why Masadi is with us tonight. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And also tonight, now we've got an amazing week coming up on Fade to Black, and it starts tonight with Masadi, but also tonight after the show, it's the start of the Taurid meteor shower. That's right. This is the southern leg of the shower. And depending on where you are, but it'll kick off after midnight tonight. I'm going to go watch a little bit of it. And typically, it's about 5 meteors per hour, right? Okay, but these flame. That's what's really cool about the Taurid. So that's kicking off tonight too as well. Is it a sign? It's a sign that it's going to be an amazing show, an amazing week here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Masadi is with us. We're going to be talking about what he does, his life's journey, of course, and frequency work. And right now, we need it. We need it. I think everybody on planet Earth should listen to this show tonight and go and check out Masadi. So that's what we're doing tonight. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, Susan Slaughter is back with us. Always excited when she is on the show. She's one of my favorite people that I call friend and get to hang out with and do all those things. We've done so many events and TV and ghost hunting together in the past. She is a ghost hunter. She's a psychic. She's a medium. It's what she does, and we're going to be talking about all of that tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Elizabeth April is here. Huge week this week on Fade to Black. And with Elizabeth, we're going to be talking about, amongst other things, the mysteries of the universe. All of it. Okay, so that's Wednesday night. Thursday night, Patricia Mana is with us. She is a psychic detective. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about her work, her cases, and what a psychic detective does, and how does law enforcement contact her? At what point do they reach out to a psychic detective? We'll be doing all of that Thursday night with Patricia Mana. Now, I've got 4 events coming up. I want to remind everybody, next week, I leave to Peru and Bolivia. So there's going to be no Fade to Black from the 13th until like the 28th or 29th when I return home. So 2 weeks of no Fade to Black, but I'll be live streaming from Peru and Bolivia with Brian Forrester. When I return from that, I will be hosting the Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton, February 7th through the 10th, 2025. And then after that, Rise of the Guardians. Masati is going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to host. I'm going to present. We're going to have a great time. That is March 29th and the 30th, 2025 in Sedona, Arizona. Links for that are below. Now, Conscious Life Expo, tickets went on sale yesterday. So everything is up on the website. The links are below. And then after that, it's the Contact Modalities Expo. That's May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2025 in Delavan, Wisconsin at Delavan Lake. I keep saying this. I'm so excited. I'm heading back to the Midwest, right? To my roots. I'm going to Wisconsin. This is where I was born and raised. So it's going to be great. And tickets are on sale now. They went on sale on the 1st over the weekend. The links for that are below. All right, let's get this show started. Tonight, Masadi's with us, and we're going to be talking about, I'm curious about his life's journey, and it's an amazing story. So we're going to get into that. but we're going to reveal his groundbreaking frequency work that guides so many beyond traditional limits to unlock deep transformation. We're going to go through all of this tonight with Masadi, and his complete bio and everything else is below and over on our website and also on social media. And his links are below on our website and on social media. I would like to welcome, for the first time, to Fade to Black. I can't believe I'm saying this, Masadi, and he's right there. First time on the show, man.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm fantastic, man. It's good to see you.
So nice seeing you. I'm excited. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Okay, I'm going to start out here. Oh, I have to start with the first-time guest disclaimer. Okay. So, which is this. Masadi is just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. And where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. That's the disclaimer you have to accept so we can move on.
Oh, I totally accept it. I'm sitting on a couch already, buddy.
You know what I was thinking? The last time we were hanging out, I was sitting on your couch.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right.
We had a session together.
Yeah,
and you walked out spacey. Ooh.
Yeah, man. Well, we're gonna circle back to that for sure. Right. But I want to start out here. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you work out today?
I did a little bit.
Yeah, I know you did. I got to tell it, Moss is in shape. He's in shape.
Thanks, dude.
You know, we're taking pictures and we're hanging out together and stuff. And man, I was just intimidated. I mean, yeah, man.
The Terminator. No.
Yeah. Well, but that says a lot about people and discipline and focus, and it also says a lot about me, I should say too as well. But and I say that because you've got an aura that surrounds you, and
thank you.
See, but this is the thing with that. People pick up on that vibration.
Yeah.
You know, you've got an aura, you've got a way of speaking, you've got a presence and a physical presence, and people see that. And are you aware how much you light up a room? And is it something that you're aware of?
No, not really. But people have told me that quite a bit. Like I changed the room, even going to like huge, like thousands of people. We walk in the room. Faye and I, my wife, we walk in the room and literally, the whole show stops and they look at us. So I've seen that happen for sure. Yeah. But I don't pay attention to it. You know what I mean? It's just something.
Yeah. Well, Faye's got her own type of glow.
Yes,
for sure. For sure. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. And okay, so when in the interest of transparency, everybody, Masadi just brought this up. We did a session. And I had told Masadi at that time that I wanted the full session, but I needed that because I wanted Masadi on the show, but I wanted to have the session for context because I wanted to see, what was going on there. So I did do that. And what you and I went through, we'll discuss the specifics of that later. Okay.
Of course.
But is that typical? What happened to me and some of the things that I said, and also your approach. Was that a typical session?
Yeah. Sometimes it gets people pass out. Sometimes people start to shake. Sometimes it looks like an exorcism. Sometimes people talk like they talk in like tongues and stuff like that. Yeah. So yours was pretty normal. Actually, you did good. Jimmy.
It was it kept me awake for a couple of nights because I had to stop and I even told you this. I said I don't want to talk about this right now. I have to unpack it.
Yeah.
And it was It was extremely compelling. But we'll come back to that. All right.
Okay.
Now that I would say, most people would say that is a gift.
Yes.
All right. Now let's back up. Let's go back to when you were a kid. I want to talk about your life's journey and how you got to this point.
Yeah.
Anything like this going on in your life with your family or anything like that? Was there anything different about you?
Well, I was a quiet kid. I was always an observer, never really fit in. But I think a lot of people who have like gifts or are like leader types, from what I'm seeing, they never really fit in because they have to observe, their reality and other people and study. I wasn't shy, so to speak. I was quiet. I know that. But when I needed to speak, I would speak. Um, but being an observer, I think, allowed me to really understand the deeper meanings of life, and even today, just looking at people, that's part of the gift. It goes much deeper, after my near-death experiences, but it's really allowed me to see, well, transparency, because a lot of people put a facade on, but there's so many layers behind that they don't even realize, and I see all those layers behind them. So
there was a moment or two after our session, where I was feeling naked. I was feeling a little exposed, and I'm around you, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's got X-ray vision,
yes.
and but I say what you just said. I say that a lot on this show, and I've said it for years and years and years and years. You wear a mask.
Yes.
Don't wear the mask. Take it off.
Exactly.
Take it off. And this person that is talking to you now, you've hung out with me. You've had dinner with me many times. We've done things. You know that I am this person, right? I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not wearing a mask. But it's why is it so difficult to take the mask off for people?
Well, I think, for some people, they've got so much, so much going on, in their lives. They have a lot of traumas, as a young child, and they don't want to experience that trauma. So basically, say like you're 13, 14 years old and, you have parents get divorced or you get abused, or, even if life is going good, you always want to be different because you don't want to turn into your parents. So whether it's good or bad, people always go, well, I don't want that. I want to do this. And then that mask starts to appear because it's like, this is a mask that I want. This is the thing that I want to show people. Not this version of myself, because this version is like broken. It's got a lot of history behind it. It's got a lot of traumas and all that. And I don't want to show people all that. So we start to create that mask. This is where imposter syndrome happens, right? When people are on stage, the imposter syndrome comes up as like, oh my God, people are going to see all the weaknesses that I have. Hence, people have that imposter syndrome because they don't want anything seen behind that mask.
Right. So one of the most freeing things, and I try to convey this to people, one of the most freeing things that I have felt, and I want other people to feel it, is I don't give a shit. Right. So when I go up on stage or I'm on the air, I'm not hiding anything. Right. And if you don't dig it, that's not my problem. Go and listen to something else or go see something else or whatever. And people have slowly accepted that now about me. They know exactly what they're going to get. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a very freeing thing to take the mask off.
It is.
And let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay right here. We're going to stay focused on this. Because we got to get to the point where these talents showed themselves. Yeah. But most people, I'm guessing here, but I think I'm right. When they are at home, the mask is off. Right. And so it's when they leave their comfort zone, the mask goes on. And
True.
I don't understand that part. Don't be ashamed or anything else.
Hmm.
Try to figure out a way to walk out of the house without
Hmm.
putting the mask on, because when they're at home, they are themselves,
True.
right? It's strange, isn't it?
It is true, but then you have a mask for other people, but then there's a mask that people wear for themselves as well. There's not just one mask, Jimmy, from what I've seen. There's a lot of people, like especially nowadays for women, and men are a little different, but like women, for example, the reason why there's so much, animosity for women is, they're human, and then they're female, and then they're a career woman. So that becomes a mask for them. Oh, I got to be a career woman, and then they're a wife or a spouse, or a partner. Oh, I got to be that mask. And then they have kids. Oh, I got to be a mother now. I got to be a nurturer to my, elder parents, and so on. So you start wearing all these masks, as you call it, and everybody really does that. But what happens is that you start to separate your identity from your true self of who you are. This true self stays, uh, it doesn't grow, and that's the problem. Nobody grows because they've created this version of themselves outside of who they are. Hence, we create this mask, and that's what you see. You're that sensitive person, and Jimmy, just like you said, transparency. Even you being outwardly, telling telling your mind, that's kind of a mask for you. That's like an identity role that you play as well, right? That's your internal
Well,
dialogue, right? Does that make
yeah.
sense to you?
Well, it does,
Yeah.
but for different reasons.
Hmm.
I had to learn, and I think that most people in broadcast,
Hmm.
that and any kind of broadcast,
Of
TV,
course.
radio, or film,
Hmm.
um, the ones that people resonate with are the
Hmm.
ones that don't wear a mask, right? They figured out a way to let their personality come out, right? And
Yeah.
that's a tough thing, because so many, a musician, a painter, a sculptor, a writer,
Hmm.
these creative types, um, grow up with a hero that, and now they have to avoid emulating them, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to play guitar like Jimi Hendrix. You don't want
Right.
to write like Stephen King. You don't
Hmm.
want to act like Brad Pitt. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You've got to,
Exactly.
and so the ones that the originals are the ones that figure out a way to let their personality come out, and that's
Come
what
true.
people
Yeah.
resonate with. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the famous people, like you mentioned, again, those are masks. They might be popular, but then again, I could read Brad Pitt or anybody, for you. But the key is, Jimmy, is like, why do people have to wear that mask? And that's what I do basically, is like, let's not
Right.
wear the mask. Let's just be authentic. And then you could say morph into, being that spouse, expand yourself rather than wearing a mask. You could expand into being a career woman, or even like Elon Musk, for example, he wears a mask. He has this identity of being this person that comes up with great ideas. That's a typecast, basically, that he's played, right? These are, you have you heard of NPCs?
I did, of course.
Yeah, non-playable characters, right?
Right. Hmm.
And everybody goes, well, I'm unique and I'm this and I'm that, and but everybody's really a non-playable character in this reality, Jimmy. Everybody's playing a role. Everybody's playing a hero, the savior, the victim. The like the Elon Musk guy. I got to be that guy that does that. I got to be that billionaire. I got to be, I don't know, somebody that's shattered, whatever it might be. They're playing the roles of that character, so they're all non-playable characters. Nobody's really awake. And that's what I do, and that's the vibrancy that you see in me, or that presence, is literally, it's like, shit, I'm like consciously awake. I'm here. I actually see the version of who I am, and there's no duality in me. There's not even for me at this level, there's not even a spirit or a physical form. Again, that's even merged as one. So that's the effects of what I do with individuals. They literally start to see their true essence of who they are from a higher level, or if you want to call it your spirit, but bring it down into physical form. But that's the original reason why people wear masks, because their dual identities, at a very deep level, at a say a core level, they have to create dual identities in a physical level because it's a fractal universe.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. So, you had a few events that
Mhm.
changed things for you, these key things.
Yes.
So let's go to the before and after. Let's go to, I'm talking about NDEs.
Yeah.
And let's go to the first one. What happened and how old were you?
I was 22, but a lot of people have NDEs, near-death experiences, Jimmy. But the difference was, I was tailored, I was groomed to have an NDE because I was really starving to find out that one equation of life. I used to read, Albert Einstein. He wanted to find that equation of life, and I searched quite a bit. I searched the religions, I studied religions at a young age. In my late teens, early 20s, I was studying religions and spirituality and all that. I'm going, shit, there's a lot of answers that just don't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense in religion. Not that they're wrong, but there's a lot of questionable, say, content there. And then you go towards people who are wealthy, because it's like spirituality or wealth, and those individuals who are wealthy, well, they didn't find the solution either. So I'm going, shit, who do I want to be when I grow up? I don't want, you know what I mean? You were like
I
that too.
do.
I know you
I
were.
yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Went through it. Went through it.
Exactly. It's like I don't want to do this, and I don't, and that's where the younger generation goes, shit. It didn't work for you guys. Why the hell do I want to turn into that? So I was literally fighting that. It's not a desire. It's like it's being railroaded into something that you're not because there's no other choice. So I didn't want that choice. I didn't want to turn into like everybody else. My parents were great. No abuse or anything like that. But obviously, you don't want to turn into this. Same as your parents. So that one question, I had such a deep burning desire. That's like, well, do you really want it? And the universe is going, do you really, really want it? And I'm going, damn, I sure do. Well, that led me to a near-death experience, which was I had my jaws crushed in a warehouse accident. In my early 20s, I used to unload rail cars for Target warehouse. So, and they have these moving walls inside the rail car, and it was stuck. So, being athletic, I climbed up. It's about a 12-foot high, 12, 14 feet high. I climbed up the wall, started pulling, and then my team members were pulling from underneath, and this wall, like half-ton wall, just like gave way and slid across the rails. And the thing that stopped it was my jaw, not my neck, but my jaw. And it's just like it just crushed, and I was just out. I was out of my body. But the cool thing was that as I stepped away, literally I was just floating, just like in the movies. I was just floating out, and I'm going hovering, and I'm looking at my body dangling literally by my jaw. I'm going, oh, wow, that must really hurt, because you could see my jaw was just like crushed. And I'm going, but what the hell am I doing over here if I'm over there? Which was really confusing, right? Because my consciousness was moved out of my physical form,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. And then it's like, oh, I'm dead. But there was no sadness or grief, because it was like, oh, I'm dead. Because in the physical body, you're limited, I would say, like 1 or 2% of your potential. So when I knew that I was awakened, it's like, oh my God, there's so much potential here. 98% of who we are is hidden away out of our physical form. And so I just escaped, and went into realms that were quite beautiful. And this is where I had like a life relive, I call it. Some people call it a life review, where they have angels that come through, or God, or however you want to describe it, and you review your life, and you go, well, you did good here, you did good there, you did good here. but what the hell happened here? We're going to send you down to hell. It doesn't work that way, Jimmy. It basically is like a life review to help you understand how precious and beautiful life is, or the gift of time and space is. And you start to understand, it's like, oh, that's why this happened. Oh, that's why this happened. You start to see the programs on what caused the things that happened in your life happen. And then that way it gets rid of, say, all the emotional aspects on or justifications that people apply to their lives. That doesn't make sense. So this is straight logic.
What happened next?
Well, I had the near death. I stepped out of my body, went into, I would say, like the fourth or fifth realms of the tunnel of light. There's a tunnel of light that you go through. I bypassed the introduction, or where people go, your loved ones are greeting you and so on like that. I bypassed that level and went into the fourth and fifth level, where you literally review your life and you go, oh, this is what life is all about. And you feel extreme love for that. And you feel extreme passion for your limited self. And you have a deep, say, integrity and deep love of who you are. In physical form, it's like, gosh, I created that. And you take, again, I can't say it enough. That love is way beyond any physical measure that you can experience in this physical realm.
How long were you? I'm going to speak frankly.
Yeah.
How long were you dead?
How long was I dead? According to my team, probably about 4 to 5 minutes. I was out of my body. Yeah. They didn't know what to do, according to them. But here's the thing, Jimmy. I was conscious as I was going through the experience, because I was thinking, it's like, wait a second, I just lived 22 years of my life.
Right. Well, that's why I asked you how long. Yeah, how long were you out?
Exactly.
I went through. Now, you and I talked about this, and the audience has heard this story many times. I'm not going to get into it, but you and I went through a lot of very similar things in our NDEs, except they were also completely different. And that's the other thing that do you find that? Well, okay, so let's. The time compression thing doesn't make any sense. I was in my coma for 4 days, and I had no concept of time, zero, and no connection with reality too, as well, none whatsoever, until I came out of the coma 4 days later. But it also seemed like forever. To say that it felt like a month or a year, and none of that is true. It didn't. It's not like that, but. Somebody could have told me I was out for 20 seconds, and I would have believed that too as well. So for you, 5 minutes, but all of this, it's weird, right? It's like time dilation or something.
It is, and there's a lot of scientific studies on time dilation. In fact, I'm writing a paper about that. Time dilation, time contraction. There is one moment of time that is constant. It's not variable, because like carbon dating and anything like that wouldn't work out if time was a variable, like scientists call. So there's one moment of time again, but as you move away from that timeline, and how you create yourself, or how you preview time, you can compress time, you can expand time. So as you move away from physical time and space into, say, etherical space or no time space, that's where everything happens all at once, just like Einstein said. So that's where, again, 22 years can like get crushed into mere seconds, actually, and you can tell the difference. So just to help people understand that, I'll give you an example here. Say you have a ruler. It's 12 inches long. Okay, it's 12 inches long, and in this time frame. But if you say expanded time frame, like a 2-to-1 ratio, now if you were outside of that realm, you would see that ruler expand. But if you were in that realm, you would still see that ruler as 12 inches.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yes, it does. It does.
So most people are in the same realm that they create themselves, hence they can't say understand time dilation or the effects of time. You literally would have to say step out of time and space, which we did. You did it differently because you weren't quite conscious of it. It's kind of like you were more like a psychedelic state where your brain was just like shut down at some level, you know. But for me, I was again more conscious outside of my body, and that was really the key. And I understood, or I started to understand that time can indeed be manipulated. And that's the thesis I use for, what I call exponential intelligence. Is like, oh, you can dilate time, you can edit time, time functions, you can make people age younger. You can help people go back in time and heal from, the trauma or whatever. You can't change what happened, but you can definitely rewrite the definitions of what happened to them or the takeaway of what happened to them.
So how did they? We've got so much to cover. So.
Mhm.
Please excuse me. Trying to I'm trying
Yeah,
to
no worries.
time dilate. I'm trying to time dilate right now. Yeah. So you come back.
Mhm.
How did that happen? And were you conscious when you came? So how did it happen? But when you came back, were you consciously aware that you had died?
Okay. So after I had that life review. This voice. I don't know if you heard a voice, but this voice, this beautiful voice. It's just the presence of that voice is like, and you're in such love, and in the space of love, many people go, God, I never want to come back. Because it's that beautiful. And then it's like, oh yeah, you can stay here, but you can always go back. It's your choice. But as soon as they say you can go back, they push you back into your body, and that's where the pain of the jaw came in. And the pain was so extreme that literally I passed out, and then I fell to the ground like 10 feet. I just crushed to the ground, and the next thing I woke up in the hospital with my jaws wired shut. So I didn't even know what happened. I didn't know how I got admitted or how I went to the hospital. Even the process of getting my jaws and my all the bone structure back in place, had no clue on what happened there.
And you said you passed back out. When you
Yeah.
how long were you passed out for? Did you like sleep for a day or two?
Well, they did the surgery on my jaw. Probably, I don't know, probably a couple hours at least, from
Right.
getting the ambulance from, the warehouse to the hospital, getting all that. So I was passed, plus they probably gave me some drugs and all that. I was passed out probably till the morning,
Yeah.
So I
Makes
just
sense.
had no recollection of
Man,
that time.
it just sounds like that really sucked. Man, I mean, to have your jaws wired
I didn't
shut.
feel a
Now,
thing.
Well,
It is crazy because I was eating through a straw for about 4 months.
You took the words out of my mouth. One of the greatest joys that humans have, and one that I take advantage of, and I've done it with you, is eating. Man,
Yes.
I love to eat. You
I
take
love
that
to eat.
away.
I
Yeah,
love
take
to
that
eat.
away. I don't care how good that smoothie is. It's
I
not the
know.
same as a slice of pizza, is it?
Well, no. Well, hamburgers and everything. I had to crush it and just like just like suck it up. But Jimmy,
but anyway,
but the I was so awakened though, Jimmy, is that afterwards and even during, foods and smells and everything was not of this realm.
I
Like
can
I'd
only
smell
imagine.
I would smell a flower, and it's like, oh my God, I've never smelled this before because it was so amazing. I was, because we're only like our visual field is so compressed compared to the light spectrum, right? We've just like a sliver of what we can see. I was starting to see things way beyond, and this is you
That's
were
my
talking about that
question.
person with the
Okay,
ghosts,
right.
whoever does the
Oh,
ghosts and stuff, right? Yeah. Yes.
we
Sorry.
got to stop. We got to stop.
Yeah.
We got to stop. When at did there must have been a moment where you went, holy crap, something is different. And
Oh,
was
yes.
it like immediate? Was it when you were finally able to open your eyes and look around and assess the situation, or did it happen over a longer period of time?
No, after I got home from the hospital, because I was fine, other than the broken jaw. So they let me out the next day, but things, driving back, I didn't drive, but getting in the passenger, I was looking at things, Jimmy, and everything was just crisper, like crisp and clear. It was like better than 4K. Like
Right.
nowadays the TV sets high def, nothing compared to that. It was just like, whoa, this is so bright. It was very extreme, and sounds, they were just beautiful. It's like sounds I've never heard before, and scents and smells and all that. It's like, oh my goodness. It's like, where am I? It's like, and the stuff of life, there was a heavenly, say, transparency over it. Everything was just beautiful.
Were you like, I see dead people? I mean, not like that, but I mean that kind of transformation. It was like, woof,
That
right?
happened on my second near death experience.
Okay, let's actually
Yes,
get to
I do
that.
see
I'm
dead
looking at,
people. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So now the first night you're 22,
Mhm.
and now you see the world with
Yeah.
panchromatic vision,
Yes.
a panchromatic smell,
Yes.
auditory,
Hmm.
everything, all of the senses are
Yeah.
amplified. And
Hmm.
that must have been absolutely amazing. But then you had
Oh, beautiful.
the second near death experience. How old were you when this happened?
That was in my mid 40s.
Okay, okay, so now but let's not go there yet. We'll go
Okay.
there in 2 minutes.
All right.
Um at Were you starting to see people differently? And
Oh,
when did
absolutely.
you what well, I know.
Mhm.
But as you started to do this, was it with the sense of touch? Was it the way people spoke? Was it what you were seeing?
Mhm.
And was it shocking to you? Because you have to try to understand and comprehend these changes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 'Cause, it's like you see people and you go, oh, you start seeing what I call, future vision. It's like, oh, that guy's gonna, get into an accident. Oh, he's gonna, have a fight with his wife, or, whatever it is, it's like, oh, and like somebody, rings on the telephone. Back days they didn't have cell phones, but it's like, oh, I know who that is. So I started to notice all those things, and so I used that intuition to create a highly successful, web business. So, because it was high level intuition, I could tell, what the client or customers needed. I knew their deep needs. I think that was the most important takeaway from that time frame. I started to understand why people say and do things the way they do.
Did you start to dispense of advice?
Back then, no, because I was really learning.
Right.
And I was really, I didn't believe. So because I'm more of a sciencey kind of guy, I wanted some feedback. So I didn't dispense advice at the time, but I would ask a lot of questions. It's like, hey, are you like this and this and that? So it was more like research back then
Yeah, it's
for
just
me.
absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So you're 22,
Mhm.
you're in your 40s when this next event
Yeah.
happened. Did you start to do some research in that time period about near death experiences, the
Mhm.
meaning of life,
Oh,
and other things about yourself?
I did quite a bit. A lot of introspection, and highly successful. In my 30s and 40s, and but unhappy as hell. Relationship not great. I had kids. I loved my kids and everything, but the relationship was not great. The money was good, but it's like, damn, I'm losing myself. And
Right.
that's what I didn't want to happen, in my 20s. I was like, I didn't want to be like all those other, highly successful individuals that you see them, and they're not happy, and they're still sick, and they age like everybody else does, and they have the same relationship problems. And I'm going, fuck, I found myself in that situation, and I'm going,
Right.
what the hell happened? I thought this was going to be, different after my near death experience. And I'm going, I just fell into it. So,
I'm going to tell the audience something. You know what? I haven't even told you this. Okay. All right, everybody. I meet Masadi's family and his kids, right? And I meet them all. And we hang out. It was a great time. It was amazing. But anyway, for about a week, and but half of his kids are young adults, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we were on an elevator. All right, you weren't there, obviously.
Yeah.
And I just turned to them and I said, "Okay, I want the truth." Yeah. Is your dad as cool as he seems? He's awesome. He's great. He's great, right? He's always been that way. He's the best dad ever. And so,
so sweet.
It was just really funny for me because I'm a dad, right?
Yeah.
I hope my daughter Nicole reacts that way if somebody asks them that question, because to watch them light up and smile, and we just, and you raised them. I mean, they're just spot on the money. So well, I mean, Faith,
of course,
gets some credit.
Yeah,
too.
that's great mom. Yeah.
But so did you have to wrestle with this though? And was it something that you were willing to accept, or
no?
Do you start to second guess yourself and think, man, is this some kind of psychosis?
Yeah, again, being successful, you have the yacht, you have, the $1 million home and all that stuff, but it's like, why the hell am I not so happy? You know what I mean? It's just like, what the hell? And I think you kind of went through that too, a lot of people do, but then they sell themselves short because there's no other shortcut. It's not even a shortcut. There's no other path that you see. It's like, because you still have to make money, and then you get stuck into being another cog, another brick in the wall. From Pink Floyd. It's just like, look, oh my God, what's happened, and that's where I think it set the conditions to have a second near death experience.
And so let's go there. What happened? So now you're in your 40s.
Yep. In my 40s, had a couple kids, and unhappy as hell. The relationship wasn't working out. Money was there, but again, I looked a lot older then in my 40s than I do now. And I can show you some pictures, by the way. It's like, who the hell is that? Literally, I looked so old. So we went on a cruise, and we went inner tubing in Belize. And it's interesting how the universe understands or knows what's going to happen, Jimmy. It's crazy, how consciousness works, So we went on a cruise. We went deep into the jungle, and we were going to go river rafting. Sounds fun, but again, I was conditioned for this, or groomed for this, to have it happen perfectly. So everybody's got life jackets, except they ran out of life jackets for me. So that's like, okay. And I'm a strong swimmer. I was a swimmer in high school. So I'm going, yeah, I'm fine. I've got the inner tube anyway, right? So we get into most of the group goes somewhere else. We get into another group, a smaller group, and it's just a family with this guide. And I don't think he was the best guide. I don't know, maybe he was new or something. But we get into the river, and the river was quite fast because of the rains, and no life jacket. But for some reason, I kept tying and making sure the life jackets on my kids were like double knotted and everything. I don't know why, but I was really nervous. And then I started to notice, Jimmy, that the jungle was just dead quiet. There was no wind. There was a strong wind, when we were there. No wind, no birds, nothing. It was just like dead, just like on a movie scene. It's just like dead quiet. I'm going, God, that's really ominous, But I didn't think anything of it, because there's no, reference points, right? And then we start getting into the river, and the guide goes, well, interlock feet because the river has different tributaries, and if you get pulled into one way, you'll go down like these falls and stuff like that. And well, that's what happened. As soon as we pulled away, something happened, and my son and I, my two sons and I, we went one way. The other part of the family, my wife at the time and my daughter went the other way with the guide, and as soon as that happened, we got sucked into what's called a cenotes, basically a hole in the river. And I pushed them aside, and I got sucked out of a inner tube, and I got sucked into this tunnel, probably a lava tube from back then, now filled with water. And again, the same thing happened. It's like I try to climb out. I had my fingernails. I was like pulling, clawing, trying to come back out. But the water pressure was so strong that I just finally gave up. And this time I could see my body. Literally, I died, and I could or drowned. I could see my body just float down into the depths of the earth, and then I felt beautiful again. It was crazy. And I ascended through the water. I could feel going through the water and the rock, and then back into this pure heaven, I guess you could call it. And in this case, I transcended the tunnel of light, the 13 layers. There's about 13 layers of the tunnel of light. And then I went behind the curtains where you're not supposed to come back ever. So, and that's the big difference between most near-death experiences and mine. I went back to the level of no time, no space, where it's just like silent. And at that level, Jimmy, you have access to all of knowledge. Anything that ever was or is and shall be, it's there for you all at once. And the amount of love that you feel up there is just amazing. And you could be anything that you want to be. Again, I was quite conscious of it, and I'm going, oh, but that was when I was downloaded with a lot of information on how basically this reality works and how we create ourselves here. And somehow, according to my wife, at the time, I was I was gone for maybe 8 to 10 minutes that time.
Whoa.
I was underwater.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but somehow, after that experience, again, blacked out, just like total pitch black, faded into black, basically. And somehow, some divine intervention pulled me out and just set me aside on the quieter part of the river. And I was looking at the inner tube still being sucked in to where I had drowned, and I'm going, how did I get 100? I was probably 100 yards above river instead of downriver. That was the first thought that came to my mind. It's like, wait a second, how did I get here? My actual words is, how in heaven did I get here if I was sucked down over there? Downriver. I should have been downriver somewhere. And that just blew my mind. It's like, whoa. And that immense love literally it felt like a huge blanket of love that just wrapped around me and I get tears even now just thinking of that. It's like, damn, somebody really loves me up there,
Wow, that's
and
great. So
yeah, it's just so beautiful, Jimmy.
when I was 15, same experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this wasn't Belize, it was Panama, the next country south, right? Okay, so anyway,
Yeah.
I'm in Panama. We're inner tubing and river rafting, and on this river that dumped into the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Same situation. So we've been doing it. I'm with like 8 or 10 friends.
Yeah.
And we're going down the river, and then it would dump out onto the beach. And then, okay, all right. And so we're just down onto the beach, back up to the top of the river, take the rapids down. We're in this cycle, right? So I had done it probably at this point, probably 5 times. And so I knew how long it took to get down the river. It was a few minutes, to and then come out on the beach. Yeah. So I'm up top. I'm on this air mattress, and I take off. and something happens. That part doesn't matter, but I get flipped over and I lose the mattress. Okay. What appeared to me 1 second later. Now I remember I could see I was on my back and I'm stuck in the in the current, but I could see the sunlight on the water. I could see that. All right. What appeared to me to be about a second later or 2 seconds later, my head pops up out of the water and I'm out in the Pacific Ocean. I look back at the beach and I could see the river through the rocks, and I know where I started, which was way up on the side of the hill, the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And I freaked. I freaked out.
Yeah.
I freaked. I made it to shore and I went like hyperventilating, like panicking, like I was under the water that whole time. I thought it was 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah. So what kind of divine intervention was that? I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't get back in the water. I didn't. I was really freaked out of the whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but see, I got cheated then too as well. I didn't get the light. I didn't get the life review. Yeah, I didn't get any of that.
Well, I think that's the difference. Like I said, I think my near death wasn't by accident. I was groomed so I could have the abilities that I have. So it was more of a training experience for me, or an accelerant, like a catapult. Because I would have had to gone say every near death equates to say 1,000 years of understanding or 1,000 layers of consciousness that you have to graduate to. It's like I went from point A to point Z. It's
right.
You know what I mean? And it's so you have to be groomed to handle that, because a lot of times, even with my sessions now, even with your sessions, that would have been 40, 50 years of healing in a very short time, 15, 20 minutes. If you really think about it. And people get really distorted, when I bring up a lot of things in a very short period of time, because it's not just about reading somebody, it's about literally changing their lives or their frequency as I read them, and it literally disorients them. So imagine catapulting yourself from point A again to point Z, and then trying to stabilize. And that was the key for me. After my second near death, I had a couple of years of dark times or dark nights of the soul, where it's shit, this isn't working out. This isn't working out. A lot of truths come out as you start to leave. I mean, again, the dark nights of the soul, Jesus went through it. Everybody that goes through an awakening process has to go through it. It's about letting go of all the lies that you are, coming into the true presence or the true essence of who you are. That's painful.
It is painful. And one of the other harsh realities, and I'm wondering if you went through this, is, and people say this all the time, but they don't really know unless you've been through it, that life is short. But then you start to really fundamentally understand that, well, not only is it short, but and the time, but don't waste a moment on bullshit.
Yeah.
I think that's some of the transformation that people go through. They don't have time for stuff that's not necessary. They just don't.
No, they really don't. I don't. That's why, you're talking about raising kids and all that. Time like that is so precious. And every time I see him, even, my oldest son, he's 28 years old, and you look at him and it's like, oh my God, he's so beautiful, and even my youngest, but it's so pure because you're seeing them for the first time, because each time, and this is where time becomes really precious, because each moment of time, Jimmy, you have a chance to recreate yourself in a different version. But most people, what they do is they drag their old version into the new moment of time.
How do you avoid that?
Well, through the work that I do, you learn how to recreate yourself, re-render yourself, each frame, basically. So each moment is a frame, just like a video strip, right? It's still shots, and then it creates motion. Does that make sense? How that works?
Well,
So
so this is what Masadi did with me, everybody. Then we're going to take a break, and we'll come back and continue. We'll jump into his third NDE, the condensed version, but the frequency work and what he does,
yeah,
and steps that you can take. So now I'm not going to say in fact, I'm going to say nothing. Our session was private and it was personal, and that's it.
yeah,
I'm not going to disclose anything. Don't everybody
yeah.
don't get excited. But anyway, so Moss, I call him Moss because we're close, we're tight.
Absolutely.
So Moss is sitting next to me, and he's doing his thing, and then he says about 4 or 5 things in a row that only I knew or thought about.
Hmm?
And so this happens, and I was kind of in a dreamy state, but I was listening to this thing. I was listening to Moss. He's got a very, very calming voice. And I listened to this. And so anyway, I've been around a lot of people that have talent. This stuff has never happened. Not like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're done. Moss goes, "Hey man, you said something." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "You said something like 15 minutes ago." I said, "What? What did I say?" And he goes, "You said interesting." You remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I did, I did. And Moss goes, "What did you say that about?" I said, "I'm not going to tell you." You remember that?
Yeah.
I said, I need to think. Wow. I need to think about this. Now, so that was my reaction.
Mhm.
Is that typical are some people
Yeah.
surprised that mask is now off and there is no wearing a mask with you, right? And they're
No.
going to hear it.
Exactly. Yeah, because I see them. So I'm not although, it may look like I have psychic abilities, it's very, very different. I actually see you the way you see yourself. And,
That's fascinating.
and when I see that and I explain it to you like that, it really resonates with people. And this is where people can, feel really, safe being vulnerable with me, because that's all, that's what it's about. It's like, hey, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, use your, information for anything. And this is where that safety mechanism comes in. It's like, oh, yeah, I can let go of all this bullshit that I've been holding on to. And this is that safe, like you feel really safe no matter who it is. Most people feel safe unless they're really the really extreme cases, obviously, but when in that safety zone, you can let go of that mask and be yourself. And that's the initial phase of like transformation, where people can go, you know what, I'm okay wherever I am. It doesn't matter where I am. That's just what's happened. It's my life experience, but it's not me. So that's that initial separation of
That's a
like
big step,
experiences
though,
and
man.
self. Oh, it's
That's a
huge.
big step. It's a huge
And it
step.
happens
It's a huge
like
step.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
I said to your kids, I asked them, I said, "So you guys really do your homework and not say that you've done your homework," right? They go, "Man, no." It was just so funny, their reaction. They were like, "Yeah." And I just think about that, where honesty is something that's a very big step. Not honest,
It is.
honesty outwardly, but honest with
Yeah.
yourself.
Honest with yourself. That's one of the biggest things I've taught my kids and myself, and Faye, my wife. It's just about pure honesty. Just like, and honesty is like no mask. Being comfortable with who you are. When you're at that level of being comfortable with who you are, sure, you're going to see weaknesses and so on, but those weaknesses aren't yours. They're just, things that it's just a role that you're playing. And a lot of times when you're that honest, the weaknesses that you have turn into, amazing seeds of great strength.
You have to look at it that way too. And again, but that's about being honest with yourself. Some people
Yeah.
don't want to, that's it's a hard look in the mirror. And
Oh,
you know what I mean?
oh, absolutely. I work with a lot of, sometimes like these high profile individuals, and they're all that on screen or on stage or whatever. And then they come to me and it's like, oh, well, hey, let's talk about your alcoholism and let's talk about this and this and this and this. They don't feel so star studded after they leave, you know, but, if you clean all that stuff up like they do, they clean all that stuff up. And then the ideal concept that they're fostering on stage becomes who they are
The
internally, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
become a
yeah, yeah.
star inside themselves. It's not a facade, it's not a fake, and they
Right.
really enjoy that space.
Well, when you do these things,
Mhm.
um, a lot of people look at I'll use the word romantic.
Mhm.
The romantic idea, not romance like sex, but the
Yeah,
romantic ideas of going back in time and fixing something that was broke, and
yes.
then their life would be no. You would never do that because that's all part of life's journey. You go
Mhm.
back and you change one thing about yourself, your kids aren't born. Things,
Well,
all of
yeah.
that changes. It's the butterfly effect.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
the journey is about where you are now and how
yeah.
you move forward.
Mhm.
That's what it is. And it's little tiny things. I'm not perfect, but if I can do
Of
one
course.
little thing every single day, tighten a screw
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah. Well,
that's what it's about, isn't it?
it is. I mean, you don't go back and change again the physical things because that's well impossible because it's written in the sands of time, right? What's happened to you, and there is records of it, that I basically can access. So no, you can't change that, but you can go back and change why those things happen to you and what you take away from it. So instead of a situation devastating you, that situation, once you understand it, can actually free you from it. So, and that's where those moments, really turn into like really growth or expansive experiences for individuals. Those moments of, like tragedy can turn into great moments of like strength and knowing yourself. Because what if you can do that, if you can turn that around, the present moment of who you are dramatically changes within a short time, which allows your future moments different possibilities that you never had access to.
Why is it, and we're going to take a break here after this.
Yeah.
Why is it because kids have a natural instinct to bury trauma, right?
Mhm.
And move on from it. And then when you get to be an adult,
Yeah.
you then you go back and examine those certain situations. But when we're
Yeah.
kids, we're
Mhm.
able to build up this calcium wall around the
Yeah.
trauma to protect ourselves.
Yeah. Well, it's because the parents, most adults, aren't awakened enough to show their kids how to get rid of the parents' patterns. So basically, the kids recycle the parents' patterns, and it becomes part of the kids. If parents were awakened enough, they'd go, okay, this is the stuff that happened to me. Yeah, you don't have to run that pattern. This is where kids ask all the times, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Because they actually have this handbook, that goes, oh, life is supposed to be like this. And they're looking at mom and dad's handbook and they're going, these things don't match. Like, you're supposed to be like this, mom, but why are you running this pattern? And then, the mom says, well, because I told you so, and this and this and that, and it's like, oh. And then as kids grow up, by the time they're like 12, they hit puberty, it's like, shit, this handbook's not for this world. and they throw that away,
Right.
and then they lock into that. And I think this is where your life and my life parallel is like, fuck. But I think the big thing between you and I, Jimmy, is that we didn't throw that handbook away. We go, God, this handbook, I know it's there, I know it's real. We just have to apply it. We just need to learn how to apply it. And I think that's why actually we're here today. Is like resurrecting the handbook that we should have lived life by that age, by the time we were like 7 or 8. If everybody did that, Jimmy, this world would be fucking different.
Yeah, completely different. Completely different. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Masadi. We're talking about frequency work. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the processes and some of the steps that even you can take. Masadi, stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, Masadi, is with us, and we are talking tonight about frequency work. And let's get straight back to it. I had the honor and privilege to have a personal session and with Masadi. And there's 2 ways to approach this. Obviously, not everybody can sit down with you, and it was almost like an MRI. It was like a CT scan. It was like it was pretty amazing. But the first steps would be with perception and look at the self and changing that. And I look at it this way: psychology And I want everybody to take this the wrong way. Just really listen to me. There's psychology, and there's the practice of that, and the psychologists and the philosophers over the years that write about this. I look at it this way: psychologists weren't smart enough to be psychics.
True.
That's my take. That's my take. That's my take. That's my take. And it's a strange thing to say, but I think that elevating consciousness and yourself to the next level goes beyond psychology, and that's the next step of human evolution. So when we look at transforming the self and the perception of the self, what are the first steps in that?
Well, we have to step outside our brain, and that's what you're getting to, Jimmy, is that, psychology just works on the brain. And basically what's happened to you that you're dealing with has already happened to you. So, and then you try to, kind of like duct tape it with psychology or self-improvement techniques. But there's a super intelligence that created you well before you even had a brain, well before you were even a single cell. You might call it your spirit, but I would call it a super intelligence, because then we get rid of the watered down versions, or the distorted versions of what spirit means, through religions and spirituality. So that consciousness, or super intelligence, that created the blueprint for you to create you into like living form. Well, you have to access that level. And again, that was created well before you even were a single cell or you had a brain. So most things happen. So there's like about 9 to 11 steps before you experience physical form. So most things that we do happen from the physical form forward. But we have to understand the foundation back here, the frequencies behind what creates you in physical form. And that's what I do. That's what XI science is about. Getting back and looking from a higher level of who you are, and actually becoming sentient, because this is what true sentient is, or true consciousness is that where you can step outside of the realm that you're creating yourself in and go, oh, that's how I'm creating myself. This is where you get to see your patterns, or you get to see your algorithms on how you're creating your life. And you'll start to see that.
Behavior is a big key. Behavior is a big key.
Oh, yeah. And behaviors are, those are surface level behaviors, emotions, logic, the experiences that you get into. Those are after effects or symptoms of the cause. Again, the cause is so far removed from the effect that people, again, just work on the effect. It's like working on your shadow or the reflection of yourself in the mirror. Nothing ever changes, because the real version of you is back here. The cause is back here. Again, but science, just works on the symptoms of the issues. What XI science is about is like, no, let's go to the cause, the underlying frequency, the frequency that goes beyond time and space. And by frequency is just I call them inception frequencies. These are frequencies that they're not energy frequencies. They're not frequencies of the body. They're not auras. They're not anything like that. Again, these are inception frequencies. And inception frequencies are, if you can think of, say, a pond, and you're dropping a pebble, the shape of that pebble dictates the pattern of the wave that comes off. So I'm helping you change what you're dropping into, say, the pond of consciousness. Again, what most people do, and what most modalities do, no matter what it is that you're already dropping these pebbles into the pond of consciousness, the sea of consciousness, and then you're trying to fix the wave that's created by this pebble. What I'm saying is like, shit, let's change the shape of the pebble that you're dropping into the ocean here, the pond. So that's the huge difference.
And putting this into words, and I like the way that you are able to paint this picture for everybody to understand. That's a very, very important component of all of this. you have been gifted this ability, and I don't want to sensationalize this or anything, but to help people understand when you're discussing this and frequencies and consciousness and to change, what got you here, you have the ability to touch someone and figure out what's going on. And that's what you're putting into words now for the processes, right? I want everybody to understand how you got to the point where you can speak about this so frankly.
Well, the second near death again really allowed me to understand the concepts. I got downloaded with a lot of information. It took me about 4 or 5 years through intense meditations, through observation, through going through. Gosh, I've done over 100,000 client sessions now, Jimmy, through the decade that I've been doing this. So that's a lot of research. That's a lot of observations. That's a lot of say practice. On my craft. By the way, my abilities everybody has. I've just honed it to such perfection. But that's what that's how I help people. That's what I teach people is like, hey, we all have these abilities, maybe in different flavors, but we all have these abilities of intuition, knowledge, shifting time frames, because that's how we create. We render this reality. And we just think we're rendering these realities all the time, Jimmy. We're creators of our universe. We're creators of our reality. But nobody ever stops to go, well, how are we creating this reality? We're just going, oh, we rendered this. Now I want to change it. And I want to paint over what I just created. It's like, well, hell, take some time, learn about how you're creating this. And you go, oh, I see. I don't need to create it that way. And then you change it while you're rendering it. And then you don't have to change it later on.
Some people, a lot of people, I should say, it doesn't matter. Masculine, feminine, male, female, are dicks. Okay, and zero empathy. Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm not playing around with this, and no concern of others. Teamwork, family, community. No, it's all self-serving, and it's a bubble that they exist in.
Right.
When you come into play and you run interference on this, right? On this thing, suddenly people do become aware, and it comes in small, right? But once they get a glimpse of empathy, of community, of family, it's a big change, and that they see that the world is different and they've been living the wrong way. And that's what you do. You adjust this what's the word I'm trying to it's a behavior thing, but it's a self-awareness thing. And that's what needs to change.
Yes. So the dicks that you call them, a lot of times you understand, or I see them and it's like, oh, I understand why they're such a dick. And then you help them see that perspective on why they are. And a lot of times, those types of individuals, they've been shortchanged so much that they gave up on the world. They just go, shit, this is the way the world is going to be. So I'd rather be the bully or instead of the bullied, so they, anything like that. But if you take away and help them put a different meaning on experiences that they've had in the past, they start to change their view on the world. And then this is where they really open up, and they're not dicks anymore, or they're not victims anymore, or they're not, I work with a lot of, I call them quietly wealthy individuals, highly successful individuals, massive fortunes and so on, but they're not really happy. They're aging the same way and all that. It's like, gosh, what's the version? Because they thought that if I create money, if I make money, then all that stuff disappears. And it really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't change who you are.
No.
Right? It it'll make it worse, actually, if you don't address this situation.
Yeah. Well, Jim Carrey, I think is one of his quotes that I love is like, I think he said everybody should become rich and famous so they can see that it's not the answer.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. And
Yeah.
it fascinates me how somebody can walk down the street
Mhm.
and be completely blind to everything around them.
Oh,
Completely.
you see it all the time.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
see it all the time.
absolutely.
It's fascinating to me.
Well,
And now, but we got to back up.
Yeah.
You touched on a point.
Mhm.
Negativity.
Yeah.
And it's people. I don't want to say this in a general sense,
Mhm.
but it's easier to do the wrong thing. In fact, doing the wrong thing is just easy. Anybody can do that, right?
True.
Doing the
Yeah.
right thing is hard. It's work. And so therefore, it's easier to be negative than to put the work in to be positive and change.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to understand why people are negative or positive rather than changing their habits or behaviors. We have to understand why their habits and behaviors exist in the first place. This is very similar to AI and Google or Facebook. They use algorithms to study our habits, right? And they're very accurate. By the way, they know what you're going to buy, a month down the line before you even do. That's how accurate your algorithms are. So, people again, they change their behaviors and habits. That's like changing, the down wave again. But when you start to notice your algorithms on why people behave the way they do, and you expose that for them or you show them and they go, oh, that's why I am the way I am. That's why I'm a dick, or that's why I'm a victim, or that's why
Right.
I'm whatever, that savior, or that's why I'm this, or this is where I get shortchanged. And again, people find solutions like I make they make a lot of money and then they think it's okay, but again, they're not okay. It's not about not making money. It's not about making money. It's about, again, the underlying frequency on what who you are that makes the money, because money is just a magnifier. Or some people go through the spiritual path. It's like, well, I'm going to find spirituality and then that's going to save me, but it doesn't save them because they didn't change their underlying algorithm or pattern. And that's really the key. Once you understand your algorithm, just like AI does, and it does it very quickly nowadays, it knows more about you than you do, just as I do. I knew more about most people than they do themselves because they're not conscious on how they're creating themselves. Right. So once you give them that power, it's like, oh, this is how I'm creating myself. It's so easy to change, and then this is where their behaviors radically change, and they start to understand what kindness is actually. Because in today's world, people can be kind, Jimmy, but kindness in today's world is defined by, not being your complete self and just being, trashed by other people. That's what it's turned out to be. Or honor, honor or love and all those things that we should be. And I mean, in this reality, none of those things work because they're ill-defined. Love is basically, I have to sacrifice myself. I have to shortchange myself. I can't really be who I am around that person for me to be in love. What the hell kind of love is that? So all those things, Jimmy, have to be redefined for people to go, oh yeah, that's what true kindness is about. That's what true love is about. In this reality, none of that shit is even worthy of being or doing, because again, we're doing it for the wrong reason and the wrong purpose. We have to get back to our original state of who we are, the purity of who we are, and redefine, love, honor, respect, all of those things. And then once we do, this reality can change dramatically.
The victim card.
Mhm.
People, okay, first off, there's a lack of empathy in the world. So if you play the victim card, nobody gives a crap. That's the first thing. But right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not getting any attention when you do that. And because of that, you play the victim card, and then you wonder why you have less and less friends, because nobody wants to hang out with somebody that's playing the victim card.
Exactly.
How do we get out of that cycle?
Well, you have to understand why you're playing the victim, and why aren't you, understanding your true self-worth of who you are. Victims usually need other people's frequencies, so they suck the life out of other people to sustain their hurt or their belief, their their badge of honor that they got back then. And some of the victim cards is like, gosh, I'm a cancer survivor. That identifying yourself as a victim, their whole identity is based on being victimized or being traumatized at some point in time back then. So even if they're like 50 and they got victimized at, say, 14, let's just say, what they're doing is they're living their 14-year-old. That 14-year-old self never died, never grew out of that victimhood. So they feel like 14 to me. And then, they live all those experiences back to 50. So time, again, is bent. The current moment is 50. They'll go back to a 14-year-old and create themselves here in this moment of time. That's a lot of baggage, and that's a lot of burden that you're bringing each and every single moment. And that's where life never feels good for you. Besides, in those situations, people who are victimized, they have to create more victimhood to keep that identity alive. Otherwise,
they have to create new situations. Yeah.
Exactly. If they're not victimized, then they lose their identity of who they are.
Yeah.
So even if
you
protect them, it doesn't work out.
Always have to have a fresh tragedy. Right?
Exactly.
It never ends. It never ends. And how much does this negative baggage weigh you down?
Oh.
Right? How can you move forward if you've got 50-pound, stuffed Samsonite luggage behind you, right? And you're trying to navigate through life with this stuff just holding you back.
When I see people with their baggage, Jimmy, it's not 50 pounds. They're pulling like a rail car with the baggage, because it's not just their baggage. It's their parents, their grandparents. I mean, in humanity or in nature, with every generation, there's an accounting process. Like, for example, in, say, lion species, they literally, the next generation before, it goes, okay, the consciousness goes, okay, what worked, what didn't, and they carry what worked over into the next generation, and therefore it gets better and better. Like, if like the lion species had, some kind of virus that wiped through, and the next generation would go, oh, we need something to to circumvent this virus, and it'll be created for them in the next generation. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
So
yes.
It learns from the next generation. Humans, because of it's all because of free will, Jimmy. Literally, free will is the problem, because humans don't understand how to use free will. So in this case, what they do is like, well, I'll take the heart issues of my parents, and I'll just pull it into my lifetime. And then, they do that from grandparents, great grandparents. So if you look at the way humans devolve, it's like they bring all their baggage and bullshit into the next generation and dump it on them. Nobody learns from anything. And then that generation dumps it on the next generation and the next generation. So with every generation, humans literally get heavier and heavier and heavier. At some point, the species goes, fuck, man, we gotta, it's not working out. And you go,
it's time to check out. Yeah.
It's time to check out.
There was, let's go back to the 80s for a second. A little time travel experiment.
Yeah.
Back in the days before cable, I should say, on TV, all night long on all the networks, were suffering videos of cultures around the world, right?
Yeah.
And they would have these painful videos to look at of children and suffering. And this went on into the psyche of the world, but certainly here in the United States, and it was constant. And I thought to myself, we're looking at this pain and suffering of the world, and they're showing the videos to me. These videos need to be shown to the people that can do something about it, right? I could send $10, but what about the billionaire that could go and fix this now and not affect? Let me give you an example, and then I want to know, because that stuff hasn't gone away. That stuff is
gone away.
no, it's still there. And so, if I'm in the 80s, and I'm making $25,000 a year, and I'm bringing home $200, $300 a week after taxes, $10 to me is a lot of bread.
Yeah.
All right, that's a lot of bread. But if I'm making $100 million a year, then $50 million I can afford to give away. I can figure out how to live on $50 million. Do you understand the difference? And nobody in these positions of power and money care. There is no empathy, because we could fix all of those problems in an instant, and nobody's done anything. That pain and suffering is still there.
True. That's true. But again, you can throw as much money into it, and people have, Jimmy. People have thrown billions of dollars towards something, but the problem there is that people who are philanthropists, they have an identity of helping people because, well, one, philanthropy, they've lost their identity creating success. Right? It's the same way with people who are highly spiritual as well, right? So they lose their identity, not gain an identity, not expand into themselves. So they start creating philanthropy. So there's a need, or they have that identity that the more people they help, the more people, the better they feel about themselves. On the flip side, that victim, that person who is poor, they don't realize, their great strength of who they are. So just giving them a handout or helping them. I mean, look at Africa, Jimmy. It's turned into, a nation that's, it hasn't worked out for any country. Why does that happen? So it's not about giving them, money. It's about changing their consciousness of who they are to identify that they're not victims anymore. They're sentient beings. They're humans that, are of a sentient nature or limitless nature. They're limitless. They have, what I call spherical abundance. They're complete of who they are. They're not representing themselves in physical form in that fashion. Once that consciousness is awakened, then things like create themselves. I mean, I'll give you an example, Jimmy, both sides. People who go, I have all this problem, I'm going to go turn spiritual. Or, you know what, I'm going to go, I have a problem and I'm going to make a shitload of money and then I'll be fine. But in that individualized situation, they make a shitload of money, Jimmy, and they still have the same problems as they did in the past. So why do you think throwing money at problems of the world is going to help people, or even more rules and more regulations? The real reason why this consciousness is starving or dying basically is because this reality dictates that no matter what you do in this consciousness, and I can define consciousness for you, is that you have to have lack, you have to have control, and you have to have sacrifice. No matter what you do in this reality, Jimmy, those are the three main ingredients. You have to get rid of those three ingredients. You have to elevate yourself to a higher level of consciousness where those ingredients are not needed to create a reality. This is where any benevolent idea or concept will always turn into a destructive force later on because it's not used properly. And you can name me any benevolent force of helping people, great cures, great whatever. Again, it's always turned into a destructive force. Even like I explained, love has turned into a destructive force where it should be benevolent. So you have to get to the bottom line, or the main cause on why that stuff happens. People have good intent, Jimmy, but again, even that good intent, you have great intent. A lot of people have great intent, but why hasn't that intent worked out over the years? And by the way, you can name me any benevolent concept, and I'll tell you how it's turned into, again, a very destructive force.
Isn't it funny? I want your take on this.
Mhm.
Why you touched upon this earlier, so
Yeah.
let's magnify this a little bit.
Mhm.
Why do we have chronic amnesia? It's you know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
it's crazy to me.
It is.
It's this cycle. It's just like
Terrible.
haven't we learned?
Well,
I mean,
it's the consciousness, because with each generation, again, because of free will, Jimmy, with each generation, that generation, or the consciousness that creates the next generation, however you want to call it, doesn't look back and go, okay, we did this right, we did this right. You like your mom and dad, they did this right, they did this wrong. Okay, let's learn from what they did right, move it on over. But what we do, like I said, is like we'll just take everything over, and not just the last. It's like an accounting period. Where in accounting you just move the last number over. But in human consciousness, what people do, Jimmy, is like all the receipts and all the baggage that the previous generation, they dump it on the genetics, the gene pool of the next generation. And every time, it's like, well, God, like, for example, like, well, suffering and killing people, for example, made me survive. Like, for example, war. The consciousness learns and it goes, oh, we need more war because that's what made us survive. Did that concept make sense? The
again,
consciousness learns.
amnesia. It's amnesia.
Well, they don't. It's that feedback loop. There's
Right.
pure intent, and then we experience it very differently. And then say we have to kill somebody, for example, for some reason, and then in order for us to survive, that consciousness or that teaching goes back to the higher level of, say, the human mastermind, and then the mastermind goes, oh, we need to kill more people in order for us to survive. So it sends down more opportunities, like to kill people, because we need to survive. So this is where, like, in political groups, they talk about, ethnic cleansing or doing God's work. It's turned into that kind of bullshit. It's like, to save people, we need to kill people. And this is what religions do as well. It's like, hey, they're going to turn into devils, so might as well, kill them off. Or countries go, I'm doing
right.
God's work. It's like, that's bullshit.
When you look at any culture
Hmm?
in the world that over time evolved, I mean, just exponentially, it was during a period of no conflict, when they were able to work on the self, work on knowledge, work on family, work on the mind, work on consciousness, understand each other. And
Yes.
they just advanced. And then what happened? Amnesia sets in.
And
right?
amnesia sets in. Absolutely. Because, they didn't do consciousness right. Because consciousness, actually, in nature, is always like expanding and getting to a perfection of itself. In human consciousness, it devolves all the time. Yes, they expand to a point, but they didn't expand for the right reasons. They expanded out of sacrifice. They expanded out of survival rather than thriving. If you think of anything that we do here, again, it's about surviving here. So we have to create ways of surviving. So no matter how technologically advanced this society becomes, we'll always have to try to survive, because that's the consciousness that we live in, right? Again, lack, control, and sacrifice.
I've got a big stack of philosophy books. Okay.
Yes.
All the greats. All the greats.
Yep.
And I read them a lot. and reread them just to see what the big deal is about. And what
Yeah.
I have found,
Yeah.
I love pissing people off. What I have found is that I'm reading a philosopher's daddy issues. Okay. All right. And it's just like, well, okay. I can sum things up pretty simply, the same that you have here.
Yeah.
Figure out what makes you happy, find your bliss, and do the right thing. Now,
Yeah.
sounds easy. No, that's a long road. That's a long journey. But you can tell when somebody is doing just that. They look young, they look vibrant, and they smile. Look at you. Look at you. Most people don't know that you're 125 years old, right?
True.
And
126 in March.
126 in March. And but you can tell when somebody has found their bliss. Right. And they are working on the self, and they are of service to others because they just look and act differently.
True. But again, people don't know what really makes them happy because of the filters that they're running. A lot of times, happiness is based on escape for people. So that's not true happiness. Happiness always cycles back to understanding or getting closer to your timeless self or your spirit. That's what true happiness is, according to the genetic, say, instructions that's encoded in your cells. So if that's your definition of happiness, finding who you are, then no matter what you do physically will create you happiness, as long as you're moving towards that one goal of defining or expanding into your purest potential. That's what true happiness.
Well, how do we recognize that filter, and how do we change that filter?
Well, I call it spatial referencing, and it's very, very simple because it helps you step out of your mind. It literally is on how you're creating yourself in reference to space and time, or time dimensions. And then most people, again, create themselves in the same dimensional space and time that they create their physical form in the same consciousness as, again, their conscious mind. So if you do spatial referencing, I'll give you simple steps to do that, you'll start to step away and you go, gosh, that's the way I'm creating this reality. And again, this is where you separate your wounds from who you truly are. And that's where people move away. And as people move away from their old self, they become like intrinsically happy. In most people's definition of happy is like, well, if I'm vacationing, I'm happy. Or if I'm listening to some music, I'm happy. That's an outside version, and you'll always need outside, circumstances to make you happy. But true happiness is like that internal connection that you have inside, and nobody can take that away from you.
Man, that's strong. That's strong.
Yeah. But the way to do that is, again, spatial referencing, and it's really, really easy to do, guys. This is beginning spatial referencing, but start to observe like objects. You have five senses, so you could like there's a TV in front of me. You just note the TV, and you just note a point on your body, like your chin. And it sounds really crazy to me, but if you just did that throughout your day, just the visual, you can notice sounds around you and then a point on your body. You starting to define, you start to define who you are, first of all. This helps you, especially if you're empathic, right? You're absorbing everybody else's garbage. You walk into a room that's sad, you become sad because you have no boundaries of who you are. So when you start to spatial reference, you separate yourself from the environment that you're creating yourself from. Okay. And then once you do that, and again, you can do it through sound, you can do it through touch. Like I'm sitting on this couch here, I can just feel the couch and then, my body. If there's the door over to the left, the tip of my nose is over here. It sounds really, really simplistic, but people have gotten off their medications, their psychotic medications, just spatial referencing, because it pulls them into such a strong identity of who they are. And that's all that people are searching for, a strong identity of who they are. But they reference their identities of who they are by their spirituality, their wealth, their burdens that they've had, the experiences that they've had. That's all them. So why would they want to get rid of that? Because if they did get rid of that, they would know who they are, right?
Can you get rid of half of it?
Oh, you can get rid of all of it. That's what I've done.
No, yeah.
So,
Is all of it too much, though? You know what I
oh,
mean? Just get
absolutely.
rid of half.
Oh, yeah, you can get rid of half, or why not get rid of all of it? So you don't want to reference yourself with objects of this reality because you aren't of this reality. You want to reference
Right.
yourself of a higher dimension of time and space. Once you get really good at spatial referencing, you can start to reference, say, the realities that people create themselves in, or the dimensions of time and space they create themselves in. This is, Jimmy, you see people and they go, shit, that person's in a whole different reality compared to where I am. People say that all the time, right? It's like,
Right.
what the hell reality are they? Well, there is a dimension of time that they're perceiving this reality through their filters. And then spatial referencing, it's not about the door over there, you're over here. It's like, oh, that person's environment or the reality that they're creating in themselves is over there compared to my reality over here. And then this is where prejudice and all those things go out the window, because you go, oh, I see that why that person is the way they are, because it's the dimension of time and space that they're rendering themselves in. It's not about that person anymore. And then you don't have to fight back and go, I see that person, I'm pushing them. Now you know why they create themselves. So it centers you even more. And as you do, there's no pushback. Hence, if there's no pushback, those people have to change around you as well. Does that make sense?
Let's go back to empathy for a second before we run out of time.
Yeah.
Empathy, people that like a true, again, how to offend everybody. So just listen to what I have to say first.
Mm-hmm.
Too much empathy is a bad thing. It starts to control you. Mm-hmm. And I watch, and it's a beautiful, it's a gifted to have empathy, mm-hmm. But when it controls you, and I'll watch somebody having a conversation with somebody, right? Somebody that is just 100% empathic, and they just one trigger word and tears, and just this raw emotion comes up. That's not a good thing, is it? You need to be able to.
No referencing.
How do we control that?
Well, we have to redefine empathy and use it properly. Empathy is basically spatial referencing, but most people do it the wrong way. Because in that situation where somebody's listening to somebody's story, if you really look at their frequencies, Jimmy, you'll start to see that person that's empathic get pulled. I can see their frequencies their essence of who they are, their presence, literally get pulled from where their body is into the other person's dimension of time and space reality. And they go, oh my God. And they feel it firsthand. Hence, they're empathic. They lose who they are because they just got pulled into that other person's world. Okay. True empathy, the way nature has designed it for you, is like empathic people is literally like, oh, I see why they were damaged and hurt or whatever. They were creating themselves in this reality. I have to stay in this reality. So they separate rather than, so empathic people are actually highly sensitive, but they have no reference of who they are. Hence, they get pulled in everywhere. But if you did have a reference of who you are, again, by spatial referencing, you'll literally start to see that your empathic abilities can actually render you with amazing gifts. So that's the true version, or that's the true sense of using empathy properly. You start to see the reality, the dimensions of consciousness that people create themselves in, and then you go, damn, that's not the best place. And then you become a lighthouse for those individuals, especially if you've healed yourself of the issues that you have. And then when you don't move into their world, you stay where you are. Again, you become a lighthouse, and then they go, oh, they're solid where they are. I need to move into their dimension of who they are. And this is where they get to help those individuals. But what most empathic people, they double up on the burdens that they're listening to. That guy's carrying 100 pounds of burdens, and then the empathic people goes, well, I'll just make 100 pounds more to make them feel
Somebody
comfortable.
Yeah. So check this out.
Mhm.
Michelle says, "Is being overly empathic a contract we can break, or is it only spatial referencing?" See, this audience is paying attention. That's a great.
Absolutely. Oh, and I can read people. So that was Michelle.
I think the police are outside your window. By the way,
my window.
I'm watching the flashing. There's flashing going on.
Oh, is there? Oh,
yeah.
I think they got a storm or something. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, is that lightning?
Yeah, it's lightning.
Yeah. All right.
So, well, back to Michelle. She's got stomach issues, by the way. Yeah, she worries a lot, so she gets stomach issues, especially on her right side. So listen to the words that she asked. A contract. So why would she think this is a contract? So, when you have a contract, it's like in Michelle's case, specifically for her, basically it's like, shit, you know what? I can't get out of this because of, so she finds herself in situations that she can't get out of. And that's a pattern that she's always creating herself in. So it's like, shit, I can't get out of this. So in relationships, she'll always feel stuck no matter what it is. If she makes money, it's like, shit, it's like she'll drown in the problems of money. Whatever it is, she'll feel like she's drowning or she can't get out of. So that's the frequency that she needs to break out of, by the way. And I can help her do that. By the way, Jimmy, if there's other people that you want me to read, I can read. I don't need to know their real name or anything like that. I can just read them and actually help them through this, even if they're listening to this on a call.
Yeah, well, you know crazy. That would be a fun show.
I think so.
Bringing you back, and we'll just do that all night with the, but here, okay, we've just got a few minutes left. Yeah. But I discuss this a lot with so many of my guests, where the questions come up, and it doesn't matter what it is, psychic readings or dreams or anything, spirituality. That you have like three core questions that constantly come up. It's romance, right? Love. Everybody's chasing that. It does make the world go around. It's jobs and it's financial security, right? Jobs and financial security. No, you can have financial security, but hate your job, right? When you want to change it. So do you get that a lot? Is that like the three big ones? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and I help them. Help people understand, true versions. Again, it's all about defining who you are. Most people, again, escape. Like, if I do X, then I'll find myself. But in reality, you have to find yourself first, and then whatever you do, get into a relationship or find a career, you'll start to actually enjoy who you are, or whatever that you're doing, and the money that you make. Again, the problem is that if I do X, you're here currently, but you're always separating yourself into the future. That's the biggest problem. You just sacrificed your present moment of who you are to be somewhere in the future. So you not only sacrificed your present moment, you sacrificed your future self. And no matter how much money you make, Jimmy, no matter if you had a dream job, if you had the perfect relationship, it'll always suck because you just separated yourself. Right. That's why. And people go, well, you need to have a guy that makes you laugh, and you need somebody that cares for you and all that bullshit. Yeah, that's fine and everything, but that's an after effect. You really need to understand who you are in the present moment, in this moment of space and time. You need to get rid of all the bullshit that you've learned from, your genetics, your parents, society's patterns, the generation that you grew up in, and recreate yourself as who you are, what, say, God created you as. Once you understand who you are, no matter what the hell you do, you're fine. You're happy. It's like, yeah. And then you'll attract that perfection because you're perfection. You're always attracting.
Right. It'll come to you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It'll come to you. If
It's
money is
physics.
your goal, you're screwed.
You're
If
screwed.
that's what,
True.
if you're chasing, if you're chasing that, right? If
Yeah.
if love is your goal, you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
If you're out chasing, no. Work it
Well,
here. It'll
even if
come
you're
find you.
chasing God, you're screwed. Because
Yeah.
again, like you just said, you're chasing something. You have to fix this thing here, your identity of who you are. And then everything else, again, spherically becomes abundant for you. It's
I
very
mean,
simple.
yeah. I'm trying to. It's Labyrinth, the movie with David Bowie, right?
Okay.
He's got this line, and it's beautiful. He just goes, "Life is short."
Yeah.
Right? It's the way that he says it, and the impact that it had on me at a very, because I was 20, probably 22 or something when that movie came out, and I was going through these changes like you, right? 22.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our parallels, by the way, to just mess with my head quite a bit. Masadi and I were having dinner one night with Faye. The three of it. We're down at the end of this table, and and it was funny how these synchronicities were just busting out. I was watching Faye just look at you like, what?
Yeah.
What? It was, but so anyway, I'm 22. And I'm going through this spiritual thing and this atheist thing. No, I had atheist friends, I should say. So that pressure is out there, and like this weird thing, and UFOs and conspiracies, and I'm Catholic, and like all this, it's all raining down on me. Right. And I had this strange, and this was after my NDEs. I had this strange thing go through my head that I never let go of, which is don't have any regrets. Don't worry about what people think. Just go out there and get it done. Nobody else is going to do it but me. And that's it. And I didn't want to seek somebody else's help or anything like that. I had this revelation very early on. And then all of the reading and the learning came after.
Yeah.
But no, I'm out there conquering the world all by myself. And I had to understand that. And fortunately, I had it at the age of 22.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, when people really start to define who they are or find who they are, outside again of physical features or physical definitions, and I think that's your strong point, Jimmy. Even if you didn't know about that, that's your strong point. You've never lost that identity or that connection to a higher self. You could call it spirit, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But that connection has always guided you into finding, knowledge, finding the truth, finding, whatever that's out there. And that's what we're talking about.
Well, how do you listen? Okay, and again, take this the wrong way, Masadi. Do you listen to others? Do you take advice?
I do. I learn from everybody. In fact, you were talking about philosophers, and because I want to perfect, exponential intelligence into the purest science that's out there. It's the science of the universe. So I am going to be coming out with critiquing some of the philosophers and what their version is, what their true meaning is, and then the new definition or an expanded definition of what it should be. Yeah, but I learn from everybody and everything, of course.
It's one of the oldest sayings out there. The world is full of talkers and not listeners.
Yes, true.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm outside of like interviews and all that. I listen and observe a lot. I always end every event that I do is like, notice what you notice and then notice the details of what you notice. So you got to be an observer. You got to be an observer.
Masadi, thank you so much. And listen, I want to, when I get back from Peru in December, I'll have you back on, and we will do just that. We'll just scan for a night. It'll be
I love it.
Yeah, it sounds so cool. Where can everybody reach out to you?
They can go to the XI code, the xicode.com. I think we've got an amazing 18-day hyper meditation where you can literally like transform your life in 18 days. That's starting in December, and it's live. And I can scan people there as well. We're also going to be doing an event together in March.
Oh, yeah. Rise of the Guardians in March.
Yeah.
In Sedona.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun. And you know what I'm going to arrange? You've got to come with me. I'm gonna arrange a sky watch, and we're all going to go out and look for our ET brothers and sisters.
I'll be there. Maybe we could summon them in.
Are you bringing is Faith coming with you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, because I know she can call in the ships. I know.
Yeah, I'm sure she can. She might be a little alien herself, So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Masadi, thank you so much. I'll see you in March, but we'll have you back on the show in December, and we'll do a night of scanning.
Great. All right, guys. Take care. Thank you.
Safe travels. Thank you, Masadi.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Perfect night on the show, everybody. Right there. Bam, Masadi. And the xicode.com and xihumanupgrade.com. Both links are below in our social media and over on our website. Perfect night. Thank you, Masadi. What a great conversation. And with that, I want to remind everybody what I'm doing tomorrow night on the show, which is Susan Slaughter is with us. So tomorrow night, she's a ghost hunter. She's a medium. She's a psychic. We're going to talk about all of that and much more tomorrow night with Susan. So I'll see everybody there. Have a great night. Until tomorrow night, all I've got is go backly tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go backly tappy.